10 random magic cards rated 161. That's the day that we're on. I want to go ahead and get it. I want to just go ahead and seize the day. What's the card, buddy? It's Damnable Pact. This is printed in Dragons of Tarkir and some Commander stuff as well. This is 2 black and X for sorcery. Target player draws X and loses X. So, not the worst card I've ever seen in my life, you know what I mean? Didn't see any play in Standard, but it's an okay Commander card. It's certainly kind of like baseline. You know, I can see why it got printed in Commander product. It's definitely not like the most sought after thing in the world, but like, okay, I'll draw X and lose X, whatever. You can make your opponent lose a bunch of life too. Like it's kind of a, you know, exsanguinate variant or a something like that. You know, there's a bunch of cards. Some drain life, right? It's I guess the OG one. So I guess it works that way too. You can mill somebody out this way if they have fewer cards and they have life left. That can happen sometimes. So I don't know. It's cool. I like the idea behind the card. It's kind of beautiful in its simplicity. We'll give you a 4.4. I think that's about where it sits. I think there's a lot of better options than this for the most part. But again, it's kind of got like 3 different modes, really. And I like cards like that, especially ones that are just fireball. I like black fireballs. You know, partial to those. Morbid Opportunist. Now that's speaking of stuff I'm partial to. This is 3 mana, 2 and a black for a 1/3 human rogue. Whenever one or more other creatures die, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. Now, usually that line would make the card suck. You know what I mean? At least make you sort of disappointed to have just gotten your hopes up. But when I first read this card, it did have me in the first half, not going to lie. And then I read the second half and assumed that maybe it would not be as good. But no, turns out the card's still great. Card is still just amazing. It triggers whenever anything dies. You know, it doesn't have to be a non-token creature. It doesn't have to be one of your guys. So your opponent's creature dies on the other side of the table. It had nothing to do with you. They just died in combat, slamming into one of your opponent's other creatures. You know what I mean? Then you get to draw, and that is busted. It's really good. It draws you a lot of cards in a turn cycle, up to 4, which is crazy. so good. There's a lot of black decks that aren't even, you know, sacrifice base that will end up playing this card because creatures die. Creatures die all the time. They die to removal spells, they die to combat and stuff. So it's just nice to be able to have a black card for a reasonable amount of mana that gets you, you know, compared to Phyrexian Arena, this is a little easier to remove, obviously, but Phyrexian Arena gets you a 1 card per turn cycle. This gets you up to 4 and will, I think on average, get you like 2.5, you know? So, like, Opportunist is really nuts, dude, and especially since we're rating most of your casual commander, I'm about to bust out and give this card, like, a completely unconscionable score. You're gonna be like, dude, what are you on right now? I'm gonna give this a 7.74, and I am 100% serious. This will probably be one of the better cards that we look at today. It's in that realm. Might even be the best card we look at today. I think Morbid Opportunist is just a cut above most cards for sure, man. But next, we'll look at Deep Root Elite from Rivals of Ixalan. This is 2 mana, 1 and a green for a 1/1 Merfolk Warrior. Whenever another Merfolk enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on target Merfolk you control. You see how that works? It's pretty good in Blue-Green Merfolk. Obviously, a copy of this card. It's only like 20 cents to pick up, too. So if you're going to play one of those Blue-Green Merfolk decks, I guess it's like, it's not bad. It's really, you're probably going to want to play the card, but it's a pretty niche application. Right, I don't think Merfolk is a huge force in Commander, you know. But there were a lot of like good blue-green Merfolk printed in the Ixalan block, so this is one of them. It's obviously not terrible, so I guess I'll give it. Like, I think I'd just rather have a blanket Anthem most of the time than this. You know, I have to ding it a little bit. It's not as good as it looks. It's just a 2 mana 1/1. You have to like play another Merfolk to get to get it up to like the proper like Grizzly Bear baseline, you know, rate. So I think there's definitely like issues, but Merfolk has no issue putting a bunch of like creatures onto the table all at one time. You know, they got like 2 different enchantments that put 1,000,000 Merfolk into play, not to mention a couple of different just like instants and sorceries that can put multiple Merfolk into play. You know, so they don't have a problem filling their board state. They're not elves, but you know, they're also not like giants. You know, they will get creatures on the table. But that said, this guy didn't impress me too much when he was in Standard, and even though he's probably kind of a must-play in Blue-Green Merfolk, again, a little too narrow for me. So I'm going to give the card a solid 4. Just right out of 4. And I mean, like, even in Merfolk, I think he's just kind of like there. You know, you play him, but you're not like super excited. Kildoran Phalanx from Ice Age, and only Ice Age. This is on the reserve list. Is 6 mana, 5 and a white for a 2/5 human soldier with banding and first strike. I believe that I've read banding before, but I'll do it again just for memes here. So banding, any creatures with banding and up to 1 creature without banding can attack in a band. Bands are blocked as a group. If any creatures with banding you control are blocking or being blocked by a creature, you divide that creature's combat damage, not its controller, among any of the creatures it's being blocked by or is blocking. So did you catch the key phrase in there? You divide the creature's combat damage, not its controller. So yeah, that's what the ability actually does. It's just a big sandwich in which that sentence is more or less in the exact middle, and that's the thing you got to pay attention to. You get to assign combat damage that creatures do or would deal or whatever, and not the controller of that creature. So that's banding is what that is. It's bad. It's just not good. It isn't good. But you only have to have 1 creature with banding to attack in a band, and sometimes that can matter, but most of the time doesn't. Banding, it's gone for a reason. It's terrible. Note that they did not give us reminder text on first strike. It's simple and clean and easy and beautiful and a good ability. Banding is terrible. It stinks. It's bad. So I don't know why this is on the reserve list. It has no business being on the reserve list. There's plenty of rares from Ice Age that aren't, that should, I wouldn't say should be. Nothing should be on the reserve list. Controversial opinion, I know, but this, least of all, what are we doing? Is it just because it's really cool RKF art? All RKF art is cool. Richard Kane is one of the best to ever do it, so, and that's the best thing about the card. Otherwise, it's just a big old pile of garbage, dude. 6 mana for a 2/5. Get out. Oh, it has first strike. A 2-power guy has first strike. Sweet. If it's Thalia we're talking about, that's one thing, but this guy costs 6 mana. It's crazy. He costs 3 Thalias. Get out of my face with this guy, man. This is... It's like a 1.4. Like, this guy's really bad. So we'll move on to Dread Reaper from Portal and Starter and Masters Edition. Guy looks awesome, dude. 6 mana, 3 and 3 black for a 6/5 horror with flying. When he comes into play from your hand, you lose 5 life. You see how he's a 6 mana hard to cast 6/5 with a downside? What a terrible magic card. That's not good, man. But I guess Portal was just trying to teach new players that, like, sometimes creatures are really big and come with a downside because they're so big. And, like, okay. I guess if you're losing 5 life, that's what you're losing. Your opponent's losing all of their life because you'll kill them with this. I guess it's the idea behind it. But, boy, this is pretty unplayable, dude. As cool as he looks, and he does, this Christopher Rush art is sick, dude. This looks like the kind of thing I would have dreamt of getting a tattoo of when I was 14. And by the time I was 18, I would realize it's a stupid tattoo. No offense to anybody who has tattoos like this. You're cool. You had the conviction to do a thing I did not do. And I actually commend you for that. Either way, man, like, this looks like something I would have drawn in a notebook while avoiding math. So I give it that much. It's definitely a sweet looking card, but it's not any more than, like, a 2.1. And the only reason I'm rating it that high is because it's a huge guy. Sometimes we like huge guys around here. And I guess maybe it gets an extra, like, 1/10 of a point because it is very cool. But don't tell anybody. So we'll move on to Vdar Duelist here. Got to put a tick in my notebook. Vdar Duelist is 4 mana. This is originally printed in Shadows over Innistrad. You have to pay 3 and a red for a 3/2. It's not a good start. It's a Vampire Warrior with haste. When it ETBs, a creature can't block this turn. So pretty drafty. Kind of a top of the curve in an aggro draft deck. Pretty bad. Pretty not good. If this costs 3 mana, still be kind of bad. So you might play it if there were no other options. If you're that hard up, throw it in from time to time. But yeah, 4 mana is just dirt. This is just really bad. So I have to give this like a 2.3. I'll give it a 1/10 of a point higher than the giant Reaper guy. Seems fair. Next is Skin Thinner. That's a good name. This guy's from Legions. He's 2 mana, 1 and a black for a 2/1 zombie with Morph for 3 and 2 black. That means you can cast him face down as a 2/2 vanilla guy for 3 mana, turn it face up anytime for its morph cost, which in this case is 5 mana, so you're paying 8 total mana in installments to get its turn face up trigger. What is that? Destroy target non-black creature. It can't be regenerated. Okay. You can't even turn it up the turn after you play it. You play it on turn 3 and you have to turn it up on like turn 5 or 6. Like whenever you get the 5th land. I don't know. I typically like creatures that blow something up when they come into play. And like this is trying to do like a Necrotal impression. But you can tell that it's just like, hey, here's this new ability morph. Sometimes stuff does stuff when it morphs up. Here's the guy that kills a creature when it morphs up. That's what this guy does. It's mostly for draft. You know, man, they were doing like variants of cards like all the way back then already. This is like not great. It's like one of the worst Necrotals of one of the worst Ravenous Chupacabras I've ever seen. Although we'll say Ravenous Chupacabra is probably the best Ravenous Chupacabra I've ever seen. It's the best one they've ever printed. Reprint Ravenous Chupacabra. It wouldn't be that good. Cowards. This is, it's like a 3.3, you know? It's not even that. This is like a 3. I'll give it a 3 and move on. This is Elbrus, the Binding Blade from Dark Ascension over here. This is like $5 to buy. 7 mana for a legendary equipment that equips for just 1 mana. Equipped creature gets +1/+0. When equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, unattach Elbrus, and then transform it. It transforms into Wittinger Unbound, a 13/13 legendary demon with flying, intimidate, and trample. Whenever a player loses the game, put 13 +1/+1 counters on Wittinger Unbound. I do seem to very vaguely remember this card. You know, it's not that hard to flip over. It's not that hard to equip, but you got to get it in play in the first place. But I guess the idea is that there's plenty of like equipment decks in Commander that can get it into play really easily. Like, there's multiple cards that are in like more or less every equipment deck that just allow you to throw an equipment in play. So, you know, I guess this gets over that. That's probably why it's like $5. That's probably at least part of why. This is a huge guy on the other side. You see how big this guy is on the other side? It's pretty good. So like transforming it really is not that difficult once it's in play. So I kind of like this. I'm going to put a 4.8 on this, which is probably too high. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, you're never going to actually get this transformed because you're never going to get it in play in the first place. But I don't know. It's a really well-designed, if nothing else, equipment. And usually I kind of yawn at equipments and I don't like them that much. But this one's at least like really cool. And again, once you get it in play, I think it's actually super easy to flip over. But we'll move on to Manac Crypt. Holy crap, it's Manac Crypt. Ooh, boy. Oh, buddy. It's Manac Crypt. Originally a Harper Prism book promo, if you didn't know that. This is only about $200 to buy right now. It's because it's banned and everything. It's banned in Legacy, Commander, Oathbreaker. You can still play it in Vintage where it is restricted. The true Manac Crypt experience, the one format that Manac Crypt is actually, truly, and rightfully perfect for, Vintage, it is restricted. This is 0 mana for an artifact. During your upkeep, flip a coin. Opponent calls heads or tails while it's in the air. If the flip ends up in opponent's favor, Manac Crypt deals 3 damage to you. You can tap this to add 2 colorless mana to your mana pool. Play this ability as an interrupt. Do you understand that this is 0 for 0? This is literally money for nothing. This is, and chicks for free for that matter. This is 0 mana for 2 colorless mana every single turn. It doesn't even like, okay, so if it did 3 damage to you and then didn't untap, right? That would make sense. But no, even if it does 3 damage to you, it untaps. You have 2 extra mana every turn. Like, picture how crazy Soul Ring is in Commander, and then ask yourself, hey, what if Soul Ring was free? So nuts, dude. I still don't understand how this card exists. This is one of those where back in the day when my friend was teaching me how to play Magic in like 1995, I was 11 years old. I'm a dumb kid anyway. What do I know about Magic, you know? I saw this card. One of his friends had a copy of this card. Holy crap, right? I didn't realize what I was looking at the time. And I was like, dude, this does 3 damage to you like every other turn on average. That's so bad. How dumb. That's how dumb I was back in the day. This is one of the best Magic cards of all time. This is on the short list of like the 10. This is better than some of the cards in the Power 9. I'm so serious right now, dude. Good Lord. I think that for Manac Crypt, we are going to have to dish out our first reel. And I know that Command Tower already gave the score to. But Command Tower is kind of cheeky, right? Command Tower's, oh, this is must-play Commander. Every single Commander deck that's not monocolored plays it. Some decks that are monocolored play it. That's how good Command Tower is. Manac Crypt is a 10. It's also a 10. I really hope that Command Tower is not cheapening that score because, again, that was kind of a meme. I felt obligated to give that card a 10. It's like a 9.9. Manac Crypt, if I could give this card an 11, I guess I would just do that. On a scale of 1 to 10, you are an 11, which is, I think that's from Aladdin. Pops into my head. I guess I could have gone Spinal Tap. That could have been the quote on that one. Right. Well, this one goes to 11. It's like, didn't you just tape the number 11 on? Isn't it just going to 10? No. This one goes to 11. And that's how I feel about Manac Crypt, dude. This is way too powerful. People were so upset when this got banned from Commander. And like, do you not see why? It's insanely the advantage this gives the player that gets it on turn 1 is almost completely insurmountable by anybody sitting at the table. Like, nuts. Absolutely. Manac Crypt into Soul Ring, and then like, how are you beatable? How are you? You're not. Dark Ritual, 5 mana, turn 1. Like, Manac Crypt is a mistake. It was a mistake when it was first printed. I don't understand why this card's even like legal. Is part of a Harper Prism book promos. They could have just as easily been like, this card is not playable in any format ever. And we would not have to worry about it, just be some novelty. But no, they decided it's playable. And now Manac Crypt is just rules for the last how long? 100 years of Magic. It's just Manac Crypt, dude. 10. Solid gold, tenor, all dinner, baby. Like, God. Jeez, man, Manac Crypt. I feel sorry for whatever card has to follow this. It's the final card of the day, but it ain't Manac Crypt. I know that much. Hopefully it's like Black Lotus or something. We're going to hit it one day. Right? We have to. But I really want to savor this moment for just another extra second here because Manac Crypt. Like, there's only a couple of cards in Magic history that we could possibly hit on this series that are even at the same level as Manac Crypt, let alone better. So, my God. I got to take a drink. Fan myself off. It's Manac Crypt. Next is Merciless Executioner. Definitely just as good as Manac Crypt. Actually, I do really like this card. This is 3 mana. It's one of these. It's 3 mana, 2 and a black for a 3/1 Orc Warrior. When it ETBs, each player sacks a creature. So it's a flashback Marauder. It's exactly a flashback Marauder. That's all it is. It's just not a zombie. So I guess it's like technically worse because like, who cares about orcs? Are you playing orcs? Are you? Spicy. Let me know, man. But yeah, this is just fine. Fleshback Marauders are always fine. And fine will net you like a 4.3 in this day and age. I think it's no Plague Crafter. They've definitely printed like way better versions of this card at this point. I think not being a zombie, seriously, not being a zombie takes off like, 0.15. I think something like that. So yeah, somewhere in the low to mid 4s, we'll put our Executioner. But that is it for today, everybody. Hope you have a beautiful rest of your Tuesday. It's just a random Tuesday, right? You got all your holiday shopping done? No, come on. None of us do. Anyway, go do it, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.